Welcome back, everybody, to the Filmmakers Roundtable, the podcast dedicated to films, filmmaking, and getting insight from filmmakers working in the industry. I'm Thomas.
I'm Dylan, and I'm tired.
Me too. So it's currently 11 in the morning, which I know some people might say, "Oh, that's not early," but we work late. So.
Yeah, we'll get right into what we've been up to. I was at a bit of a Halloween get-together last night.
Yeah.
The station that I work at, Corn Country 100.3, not sponsored, but I figured I'll give you context and plug their name. They have every year around Halloween, around the 20th, a haunted corn crawl. That's corn spelled with a K, because we're that country. Yep.
It's Indiana, so.
Yep, Indiana country, and we're surrounded by cornfields here. Like, we can walk out here, and there are plenty of cornfields out here.
Cornfields and meth.
Yep.
We're the number one meth user in the country. Oh man, we need to make a Breaking Bad sequel.
God dang it! Did you know somebody tried to crowdfund that?
Really?
Yes. They
man,
they tried to
donated. Oh.
Yeah, they tried to crowdfund it. They were trying to. It was basically saying, Walter White didn't die. He only got shot once, and we don't know if he died.
Okay.
And then they were going to get Slash to come in from Guns N' Roses.
Oh, that would have been so awesome to see.
That would have been. Sorry, I gotta adjust this real quick.
Sorry.
Let me scooch over. But that would have been awesome.
Oh.
But it was one of those Kickstarters people were observing, and you could, if you read down in the description, such and such actor declined to be a part of this.
Well, yeah.
Etc.
I mean, but I don't know. Someone could totally do a Breaking Bad-esque type of show or movie here.
I bet they could.
So
but
maybe we'll put that on our list someday.
That's an idea right
for
there.
Down the line. So
yeah.
But the 317.
Yeah.
That Ryan was Ryan. All the three of us were talking last night. Well, Ryan kind of brought something to our attention. We'll talk about it on another episode.
Yeah.
Later down the line, but yeah. Okay, we're getting off topic.
Okay, but back to on topic. I went to a little Halloween get together that my station has every Halloween called the Haunted Corn Crawl. You get it's a contest that listeners can enter. They get a free meal, 2 haunted houses, and a drive to both haunted houses. It was an interesting night, to say the least. I don't want to go into full detail because the appeal of the event is that you don't know what you're going to be getting into. So I won't go into details, but I didn't get to bed until around 3 o'clock this morning. So let that be as it may and tell you how I'm feeling right now.
Yeah.
But it was fun. It was fun. I love going to this.
Cool. I'm glad you do.
As for what I've been working on, I've got a reading here in the works. I want to do one specifically now that we're getting closer to Halloween. Haven't been able to participate in Inktober a lot these recent days. That's how a person talks, okay? But that's what I've been up to. Been doing some writing, some scripting.
Cool.
Been mostly working.
Yeah.
Like right after we're done doing this, I've got to go down and do the race, and then when I come home, I got to start putting that video together from last night. So I've got a busy time ahead of me.
Yeah. Well, good luck. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun to put together. I've got to condense all that footage down to a minute and a half.
Well, hope you have plenty to work with.
I do. I do. When you go to something like this, you have plenty to work with.
Cool. All right. So,
Tom, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm not as tired, but still. I just turned 22 years old.
Happy birthday to you. Happy belated birthday to you.
Thanks.
I saw you got another tattoo.
Yeah, I got a tattoo on my collarbone. Whoops. So, yeah, we'll put a photo on screen for those watching on the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And
we could probably provide unless we host it somewhere, provide a link to the picture in the description for SoundCloud.
Yeah, or you can find it on my Instagram. So
sure.
So and to answer your question, yes, it did hurt.
I think any tattoo hurts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have one on my forearm. You know, it hurt, but it was short and sweet. So
it was a cakewalk compared to that.
Yeah. So I've still been moisturizing it, so I gotta do that. So
gotcha.
But anyway, so I'm doing okay. What am I working on? Working on Awaken. Getting things finalized. Hopefully by the end of this week. I'd say by Monday, but really that's tomorrow since we're recording this. We're recording this on Sunday. We couldn't do it on Friday.
I was visiting my grandmother's and. Yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't going to be getting home that Friday to record this, but we're recording it now, so let's get into it.
Yeah. So.
All right. Let's get right into the news. We've got one really, really interesting piece of news today. Like our go-to tags for looking up news, they were full of a lot of top 10 lists and such and like that, think pieces on certain directors, etc., etc.
Yeah.
A lot of politics in there, so we were only really to dig this out of the pile.
Yeah.
According to QZ.com, a fan-owned film company wants to make original stories the next big movie craze. And we've got a picture of Nicolas Cage from Mandy. I believe this is it. He's covered in blood.
Yeah, that came out this year?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, this article concerns the company called Legion M. Legion M is a crowd-funded effort by fans. It was formed in 2016 to take advantage of the new U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission rule change that allowed regular people, not just the wealthy, to invest in startups. It was founded by Paul Scanlan and Jeff Anson, who created Mobi TV to put TV shows on smartphones. And their initiative is to give fans a say in the kinds of projects its entertainment company made. The idea was that, according to this article, if people are emotionally and financially invested in Legion M, they'll be more likely to support its projects, even if it's not making superhero movies, 80s revivals, or TV reboots. That's refreshing to see, definitely.
Yeah. So, yeah, I would like to see original work come back more. I mean, there's always original work, but it almost never gets the spotlight. I think the closest this year, to my knowledge at least, is 8th Grade.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Bo Burnham.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
And then to go along with this, the company wasn't interested in prequels, sequels, or spin-offs that Hollywood has been churning out. Not to say it would never do one, but it wanted to build a fan base around the original material that has become rarer on the big screen. And Scanlan told Quartz, okay, that's what QC stands for. Okay, Quartz.com. They said to spread a virus, sorry, I cannot talk today, you need patient zero. You need someone infected to walk through a crowded airport. If you have a lot of people doing that right out of the gate, then you have a better opportunity. That makes sense.
Yeah, sounds like it. I had to think about what that analogy was, but I'm like, oh, okay.
It makes sense if we can get a company, bless you, if we can get a company interested in, basically infected with having original material, and it sells and it does well, you're gonna have a lot of other companies jumping on board. It'll probably take a really big breakout hit for the big AAA movie studios to turn their heads and say, this is profitable now.
Yeah. I mean, that's just kind of the way things have always kind of been that way since, like, after the pre-film era kind of phased out, when they found out, you can, like in the 40s, like in the 30s and 40s during the Depression, it's like, oh, hey, we can make all these film noir movies and, we don't have to spend all that much money on them, and we can still make profit because that's how people entertained themselves back during the Depression and during the Second World War.
Yep.
So, that's how they escaped the harshness of reality. So,
yep. I don't know what else to say because I think this is going to be interesting. I can't.
Yeah.
I want to see what these people come up with first.
Yeah.
And then if they got my attention and I like what they do, they'll have my support. But we'll have to see when their stuff comes out.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Yeah, I'd definitely like to see how this goes. I don't know. It's like studios like these guys or A24, all these people, they're pushing for more original stuff, and they're getting there's momentum there, so just got to get the ball rolling, like the snowball effect. So,
or the bell curve of innovation.
Yeah,
Got to get it up that hill, and then everybody else will follow through.
yeah,
You got to have the innovators, and once you get over the bell curve, things will start making money.
yeah. I'm gonna have
in theory, that's what
yin and yang. So
yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so we'll kind of have to see what this goes out. So
Yep. Now, like we said, that was the only really juicy bit of news that we were able to find amongst everything else, because a lot of the other news we were seeing was top 10s and stuff like that, reviews, especially the recent Halloween movie that came out,
which apparently did $75 million in the opening weekend. So
that I want to go see this even more now. I wanted to see this when it came out, but I'm gonna go Tuesday and take advantage of that deal day Tuesday.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to movies?
Well, we'll move on to movies we've seen, just to get out of the way. I didn't see any movies. I was just like, I feel terrible. I have an AMC subscription where I can see 3 movies a week, but I barely used it since I got it. I was like, oh, I feel like shit.
Hey, the only way you can make that change and start using it is doing.
Yeah.
Like my professor, Dr. Steve Cohen, he told me, you can't change your behavior unless you do. Don't talk. Yeah, exactly. It all goes back to do it.
Yeah.
You can't. Here's a little piece of advice. You want to get started on something. You want to change a bad habit that you have. Don't talk about changing it. Change it. Take action.
You want to shed pounds? Do it.
Do it.
Yeah. We'll insert green screen Shia here.
Yes.
So.
All right. Well, movies I've seen. Well, last week I saw Nightmare on Elm Street on the big screen at the Artcraft Theater. I didn't get a chance to record a little mini about my reactions, so we're going to be doing that here.
Yeah.
It still holds up pretty surprisingly well. There's some parts that have aged a bit. I will say, like any movie from that era, things have aged a bit.
Yeah.
There were certain moments where I should have been scared, but everyone behind me was laughing.
Yeah.
Like the mother just pulling out a bottle of vodka from the closet. Everybody got a giggle out of that.
Yeah.
But I still love that movie, and it was awesome to see it on the big screen. Like, I love how in the first one, because all the sequels gave Freddy Krueger even more of a voice and a more comedic edge to him, like a very sadistic comedic.
Freddy's dead, Freddy Krueger.
Yes. I'll get you, my pretty, and your little soul too. Oh, that was a movie. That was a movie right there. But I forgot. It reminded me of how sound was the biggest thing in the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the later sequels, his face was on full display. You got a full view of his face. But in the first one, he's always casted in shadows. You could never really tell when you were in or out of a dream until it was obvious. There was a lot of sound, the screeching of his knives against a metal pipe.
Yeah.
The sound really made this movie, and
right.
The later movies did kind of lose that, but I really appreciate that touch here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Also that wall scene in the beginning of the movie. Practical. This is an example. That's an example of how practical effects look better than CGI, because they did that same exact scene in the remake. The Michael Bay produced one, actually.
Oh, God.
You didn't know that? Michael Bay apparently produced both the Friday the 13th one and the Nightmare on Elm Street one.
Oh, God.
Both remakes.
God.
Unless I'm wrong, and I'll make a podcast correction, but they recreated that scene in CGI, and I like the fact that they had the claws come out, but for the fact of the matter is, it looked terrible.
Of course it did.
It looked like a blob just stretching out from the wall, whereas the original, they actually had a sheet of something that you could press your face against and it would stretch and give. There was somebody behind it. There was somebody actually coming through the wall.
Right.
And also Robert Englund is the man.
Yeah.
That man is Freddy Krueger. All credit to the man who played Freddy in the remake. He did a good job for what he was given.
Yeah.
But Robert Englund, that man is Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to something else that I watched.
So The Greatest Showman.
The Greatest Showman.
I've heard a lot about it.
I've heard a lot about it too. I love the music. My mother pointed out something to me when she had seen this movie before I did, and she pointed out something that kind of stuck with me. The music, the genre and the style of music that all the song numbers were essentially. It was very modern. It was a more very modern pop, R&B sound to it, and she pointed out how it helps the film because. Right. I feel like it's in the same vein as that Hamilton musical, where they make the music modern, but the story is set in the past, and to me, it actually really worked. There was a lot of high energy because, for those who don't know about The Greatest Showman, who are you? It's been all over the place, and it's been ablaze ever since it came out. Everybody's been going crazy over the soundtrack. It's a very romanticized version of the story of P.T. Barnum, the man who coined the phrase showmanship, show business, and his traveling circus. And I think the reason that the music works so well even though it doesn't fit the time period,
right,
is because it is a highly romanticized retelling of his story. But there's the juxtaposition of how this is supposed to be a grand spectacle. And I think the movie really reflects that. It's really flashy, really in your face. It's smoke and mirrors, and I really like that.
Cool. So I've heard it was like so bad it's good.
No, I thought it was pretty good.
Okay.
Now, there's actually
like it's a really over the top.
Yes, it is really over the top, and I love it for that.
Yeah.
Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
I love
Jackman.
Hugh Jackman.
I'm not gonna diss on the Jackman.
I'm not gonna diss on the Jackman. No, I'm not. That man is awesome. Yeah. He was Wolverine. He was that man in Les Miserables, even though I didn't see that one. But he was really
and
good.
Van Helsing.
Really?
Yeah.
He was?
Yeah. And one that came out in 2005. The Nostalgia Critic just reviewed it.
Oh, yeah. That's when the Legacy collections came out because the director of that did a bunch of commentaries on all the Universal movies.
Oh, yeah.
But like Hugh Jackman is great. The casting is amazing. It's like some of the CGI is very obvious.
Yeah.
It's like it wasn't real. I don't think there could have been done more compositing and some stuff done to the textures. But this ties into my next point. The pacing. Here's a point of comparison. I'm gonna probably give a lot of bronies a bit of flashback here. It reminded me a lot of the season 3 finale to My Little Pony. Because, okay, for those who aren't familiar, that episode was called Magical Mystery Cure. I won't go into the details of the plot, but that episode stood out because the episodes from time to time will have songs that the characters will sing. The season 3 finale was an episode where there were constantly songs throughout the episode. Little dialogue here, then a song, little dialogue, song, and then right after that, another song.
Sorry.
Tom, I'm going into a discussion here.
About My Little Pony.
Yes, of course. It's a point of comparison because I felt the same way about this movie. Because there was the dialogue was almost non-existent sometimes. Sure, there were patches of dialogue here or there, but then they would go right into another musical number. I'm talking about The Greatest Showman here, so you can wake up there, Tom. But yeah, it felt like there was little time for dialogue.
Right.
But at the same time, it wasn't that big of an issue because the songs were both amazing, but they kind of served their purpose as well. But here's the thing: here's how I would describe it outside of a reference to My Little Pony. It felt like a musical on the stage. It felt like they took a musical from the stage, trimmed some of the dialogue, and then put it in a movie.
Okay.
Because there were like really quick changes in the pacing that you could find in certain plays.
Right.
And then there are some things that could have been worked out, like we should have spent more time here or there, but I enjoyed it.
Do you think that was the point?
Explain.
Like to try like what you said about the pacing, between songs. Do you think like they were trying to like, because it's kind of like, I don't want to say a parody, but it's like a take on, stage and theater.
Well, I wouldn't argue against that.
Yeah, I'm just thinking because of all the musicals I've seen on stage, I could see that.
But again, this movie was pretty good. This movie was really good. Again, highly romanticized. The real story of P.T. Barnum didn't go exactly how it was depicted in that film, but I think they got down the spirit of what P.T. Barnum was about. He was a man who knew how to draw in a crowd. He didn't lie. He just didn't tell the whole truth. Right. He knew how to do smoke and mirrors. He knew how to build things up. Like a good example, he claimed to have the world's largest elephant, and he also played on a lot of the ignorance of people.
Yeah.
Like, the ignorance, because a lot of people weren't used to seeing elephants. So if you said you had the largest elephant in the world, people would believe you, because back in those days, you couldn't just hop over to where all the elephants are and see for yourself.
Yeah.
So you took this man's word for it because he was flashy enough, and you believed him because he had an elephant. Who else did you know that had an elephant? No one.
Yeah, I guess it's true. So,
but yeah, he's also his way of doing things gave us our almost our modern understanding of public relations. I took a whole curriculum on P.T. Barnum in college when I was doing public relations. Mm-hmm. Look it up. And then I ended off my viewing this week with the best thing to watch during October for this time of spookiness. Whose line is it anyway? Mm-hmm. I was over at my grandmother's, and she has this channel called Up TV, and they were having a marathon of Whose Line Is It Anyway after we got done watching The Greatest Showman. So I'm a sucker for Drew Carey and Whose Line Is It Anyway, and that show still holds up.
Yeah.
Even though we watched an episode where they were talking about, there's a reoccurring gag where they'll do a compilation album where they get a topic, and then two people will improv something, and they will improv a song for one of the other contestants to sing with the guitarist and the pianist.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, some of those. I got an early 2000s episode that I was watching where they had the guy perform a song in the style of MC Hammer.
Wow, okay.
You can tell how old that is.
Yeah.
But, again, it's Whose Line Is It Anyway? It still holds up. It's still funny to this day. Heck, a lot of the jokes I didn't get when I was a kid, I get now. Yeah. Because now that I'm older.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember we watched like a little segment of it when in chemistry in high school.
Mr. Eskew?
No.
Ah.
Well, she's Mrs. Maddox now.
Ah.
So she was Hilda Brand back then. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But, yeah.
If you haven't seen Whose Line Is It Anyway, there's plenty of clips on YouTube. Go watch it now.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to discussion.
Yeah.
When to close the book. The ending.
Something that studios don't really understand. Or they don't care.
Or Peter Jackson needed to get a better handle on for the final Lord of the Rings movie.
Which final Lord of the Rings movie?
Of the original trilogy. Because remember, there were several. There were several endings.
I remember that. I remember that. But he also didn't get a handle on how to do 3 movies on one book.
Well, that's an entirely different issue, there, my friend.
Well, I know, but I don't like those movies. And they're not awful or anything, but they just it's not the original. Not the original 3, you know? I mean, not that you can top them, but...
Yeah.
It's just, like, too much CG.
That's a discussion for another day.
Yeah.
I'll say that. But when to close the book.
So.
The ending. Where do you choose to close the story off? When should you close it off? And how should you close it off?
Good example, Back to the Future.
Yes. Yes, the third. Let's go to the end of the third movie, shall
Yeah. Well, they didn't even need to do the sequels. They didn't plan to.
No.
You could have just done that one movie, and then that would have been it.
we? Yeah. Let's go. Let's go back to the first one. That ending is so perfect.
Yeah,
as
I love it.
that. Yeah,
Love it.
it's both a cliffhanger I love it. It's a cliffhanger for a sequel that they never intended to do.
No.
And it also is a perfect ending because even if they made nothing after that, your mind's always wondering, where did they go? Well,
Yeah.
Where did they go? But we know where they're going. They're going to the future off on another time traveling adventure, and I think that's perfect for us.
Yeah.
But I do love how the third movie ended
Yeah.
in wrapping everything up. Marty's got his life all together. He's got his girlfriend. His life is all right. Everything's fixed. Doc is happily married and with kids.
Yep.
He's got a time-traveling train,
Yep.
and Doc's going to go off on another time-traveling adventure with his family, if we don't count the cartoon.
And the video games.
Yeah, yep.
And the comics.
Yep. Actually, I have a few issues of that over there.
Oh, cool.
Yep. But that and it perfectly capped off everything because
Yep.
I think it would have been a bad. I don't know. I don't know if we should have. I don't think we should have had an ending where the time machine. Oh no! They had both. Okay, they destroyed the time machine and then revealed that Doc had the train. But if they had just left it at the DeLorean, getting smashed to pieces, that would have been kind of a more bittersweet ending, you know?
Yeah.
Doc's in a place where he's with the woman he loves, but he can't get back to the future.
Yeah.
The title drop right there. But Marty's got his life together, but he's just lost his best friend in the world.
Yeah.
That would definitely been a bittersweet, and I don't think I would have seen the third one going that way.
No, I doubt that. But yeah, we've talked about Robert Zemeckis. We've talked about this many times before.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, yeah, I'm not going to do Back to the Future anymore.
Good on you.
Yeah, and he said 3's enough. It's the Trinity. 3-act structure. 4 is boring. There's no drama in 4
because everything's resolved.
Yeah, and like Bob Gale said, it's like they said what they wanted to do, done what they wanted to do, and if they went back to it another time, it'd be an act of prostitution. So, yeah. Well, wait. Well.
He's not wrong.
Yeah, I was like, well, what other way would you put it? It's just like, yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yes. Same with the original Star Wars. Kind of the same way with the original Star Wars trilogy.
Yeah.
3 acts. Well. Star Wars kind of lends itself. I'll take that back. Star Wars kind of lends itself to even more sequels because the galaxy is so vast. Yeah. You can have more to say.
Though we've yet to see much of that more galaxy with the new films they're making.
I will say this: they probably shouldn't. They should. They didn't. They could have thrown all that. They could throw that stuff out of canon, all the expanded universe stuff.
Yeah.
But maybe they should start picking through that. Maybe come up with some ideas to use from there.
Well, I think they kind of had to. Because, this is really a discussion for another day.
Like, who's going to go out there and read all of that and be...
And if they adapt them, they're going to have to make changes anyway.
Yeah.
So, that's another... Well, we kind of did talk about book adaptations, but...
Mm-hmm.
You can't... it's just like... They kind of just had to do... They kind of just had to do both ways. It's just like, well... Okay, if we disappoint you, we'll kind of just we'll be making our own sort of original stuff.
Yeah. That is the razor's edge right there.
Yeah, so it was kind of like a lose-lose in that case, so
understandable, but yeah, definitely the best time to end your story like you said, Tom, and you quoted Bob Gale there, is when you've said what you wanted to say. And you just got to close the book. Just stop writing.
Yeah.
Because I think I watched this series on YouTube to help me with writing. It's a good thing to put on the background as white noise and learn a thing or two. Terrible writing advice. The premise of the show. It's an actual guy who has a book published, giving you advice in the most sarcastic tone, in the guise of him giving you terrible writing advice. But you take the opposite. There, I explained the joke. But it is a good
check that out.
It is a good series. He goes from he covers a lot of topics, different characters like the main protagonist, different genres, fantasy races, so the sci-fi genre, aliens. He just recently did plotting your story. We actually discussed two types of writers: the structured writer, the architect writer. The architect writer is the person who goes with an outline. They have a structure. They have plot points that they go to and from, and they fill in what's in the middle. Or there's the discovery writer, where they write from the seat of their pants.
Right.
And he lists, and under his sarcastic tone, he lists the pros and cons. Like a discovery writer can keep his characters more consistent, can keep their characters more consistent. The architect writer is a little more rigid to their plot. They aren't too flexible. And he pointed out how he leans more architect, but he is a bit of a discovery writer as well, right, because there's a bit of a spectrum between those two types of writers. But he pointed out there's a habit of the discovery writer, since they go off the seat of their pants, they keep writing after the ending's over.
Yeah, and that kind of ties in, like, so when do you keep going? I guess that's kind of the flip side.
When do you keep going?
I mean, because it's like, if you have something like, I know you don't know much about this series, but like Game of Thrones or the books in particular, George R.R. Martin's, there's 5 books, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure I've only read the first one, and he's got 2 more coming, whenever that'll be, because the first one came out in '96, so it's as old as I am. So, yeah.
Damn.
So, and with the show, the final season's coming out next year.
Mm-hmm.
So which Ryan and I will probably talk about that. But unless you want to get your game together and watch the show,
I can binge watch it. How long do I got until next year?
I don't know off the top of my head when it's coming out, but probably I'd imagine like April or May next year. So
gotcha.
Yeah, Ryan's got all the DVDs and Blu-rays, so you can
borrow.
Yeah. So I'm gonna wait to buy the whole set when the show's finished. So.
Roger.
Anyway, but yeah, that kind of goes into like what we were saying, and like with the Game of Thrones, the Benioff and Weiss, they've been working on the show since like 2007. That's when they first pitched it.
2007?
Yeah. That's when they first pitched it and started developing it.
When did it get picked up and actually started? What year did it start?
Oh, the first season aired in 2011.
Huh.
And but development that can take a long time.
that can take years, but
yeah, but I think like
that wasn't that long ago.
I think like 2009, 2010. That's when they actually started production.
Mm-hmm.
So because that show does take a long time to produce. So
yeah, and putting. No, I was about to make a joke that would have been taken political. It had to do with the heads on the pikes.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I brought that to your attention. Although they didn't do that to like spite anything, they just needed some heads. They got like a truck full of heads that they needed to put on there, and then from like a special effects department, and then they just put them on there. It's just like, oh, one of them happened to kind of look like
George W. Bush.
Okay, I guess we're gonna name the names now. Okay, but
you explained to me that it was just that they needed heads to put up there.
Yeah.
Like I was about to make a political joke, like they put George W. Bush's head on a pike, but I wanted to stay out of that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, back to the topic at hand.
Yeah.
I think. Here's a good example. This is actually from a video game series. I'm actually gonna cite Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
Mm-hmm.
Now.
Wake me when you're done.
I'll wake you when you're done. Now, I do enjoy the Modern Warfare trilogy of games because they do have their bouts of being very over the top and not the best writing, because Call of Duty has that reputation of not having the best writing, and it can show. But I do want to follow the characters in the Modern Warfare trilogy. But the third game ends I think, in one of the best ways that a story can. Because all throughout the games, they're trying to find Makarov and and kill him, because he's caused all this travesty around the world, plunged the world into war, and the third game ends. Spoilers for a game that's several years old. At the end, Captain Price, the main character that you've been playing it throughout these games, manages to catch Makarov and hangs him by a cable. And how the ending goes, they crash through this roof, Makarov's neck breaks, he dies, and Captain Price is just sitting there on the ground. He's covered in glass, he's hurting, he's been shot repeatedly, but that's an issue with gameplay, and he's been beaten severely, he's probably bleeding, so he just scoots himself back, pulls out a cigarette, strikes his lighter a few times and then lights it, takes a big whiff, and that's how the game ends. Tom, you can wake up.
Okay.
But what that illustrates is the kind of ending that you can have with some movies. Once you've completed your goal, once you've completed a goal that you've been going through hell to get through, if it's a really perilous goal that you've been going through so much, sometimes the best ending is when that goal has been achieved. Like you kill off the main baddie, and then you maybe have a time, the main character has a moment to do something like take out a cigarette and finally have a smoke. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's the best ending because after that the story's over. The big baddie's dead and the story's over.
Yeah.
Now there are some movies, and I will be more forgiving with the third Lord of the Rings film, with how many endings it had.
Yeah.
Because that felt like that it acknowledged that these characters had come so far and they had places to go back to. Mm. So I feel like if you can end it right after they finish their goal of the story, or you can take a few passages or so, or a few scenes or so of them going back, because that's included in the hero's journey. Once they've completed their goal and they've grown, they go back to the world that they used to know, but they've grown. And the best way, and some endings, like Back to the Future is a good example of this. Yeah. Like we could have ended with Marty getting back to the future, and the movie could have ended after we found out that Doc was alive. It could have ended there, but I think the ending is made even better because we got to see how his life had changed because of his actions in the past.
Yeah.
It's that balance of, do I go beyond this and show how this affects everyone, or is it good to just leave it here now that their goal is complete?
Yeah. And sometimes it's less is more,
Yeah.
Sometimes, like in Back to the Future, Marty Doc could have sent him another letter, from 1885 to 1985. It's just like, and sent him like a picture of his family. It's like, oh, that could have been a nice way to end it. So,
yep.
Yeah, the Western Union truck comes behind Marty and Jennifer. So
that would have been kind of, that would have made it. That would still been bittersweet, but it would have been kind of nice. Yeah, it would have been bittersweet, but I think that would be a nice little, aw, he's happy, and Marty just like, he's happy, I'm happy, even though I don't get to see him ever again.
Yeah. Yeah, crane up in the sky and fade to black. The end.
That actually sounds like a pretty decent ending.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, the ending to the third film is great, but it's like, hey, but you get the point. There's multiple ways to do it. So.
Yeah, and it depends on the kind of story you're telling. What would be a good example? A good example would be Ferris Bueller.
Oh yeah.
How that ends. Granted, that credit scene is hilarious, and it doesn't serve any purpose, just to show.
Go home.
Yes. It's just like.
What were you expecting, Samuel Jackson?
God dang it, man! I didn't want to talk about Deadpool right now, even though that's an awesome movie. You should go see it. Did I ever tell you that Wettrick took his son to go see that?
Yeah, you did.
oh boy, did he regret that?
Yeah. Okay.
But I think this also ties into how well you can do your ending. Because knowing when to have your ending, but also how your ending is going to be.
Yeah.
Because ideally, unless you're baiting for a sequel, there's two ways you could probably... The way I see there's two ways you can go about it. If you have, like, the ending that there's nothing to come after this,
Yeah.
you have an ending that kind of that kind of ties everything up, ties up all the loose ends, and I think you would swing more to having, after the main objective of the whole story be completed, you have a chapter or two about the characters getting back into the regular world, and then there's the ending where not everything is tied up, and I think it depends on I think like we said, it depends on the story you're telling.
Yeah. A good example of when you need to close the book, The Matrix.
Yep, they probably should have. Yeah, they. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the car chase scene was awesome in the second one,
Yes.
but beyond that,
I here's a little anecdote I've got. I played the video game, The Matrix: The Path of Neo. It's basically a video game going through all three films, and at the point in the third section of the game, at the point where in the movie we would have had that Deus Ex Machina scene with the actual Deus Ex Machina, because that was the character's name, Deus Ex Machina. I remember.
oh yeah,
Yep. At that point in the game fades to black, and then white screen comes up. It's that scene. It's that setting from that scene where Morpheus is telling Neo about the Matrix. A couple chairs appear, and the pixelated representations of the then Wachowski brothers came out, and they said, when we were making this game, when we were going to make all these movies into a game, we realized that the Jesus thing was lame, really lame.
really.
And yeah, if we have the save still, I could probably boot that up. But they say, but the Jesus thing is lame, really lame.
And why?
If you're like us, you want to have a final boss battle where all the Agent Smiths start to crowd on each other, making a giant monstrous machine. And that's the final boss of the game. You fight a bunch of Agent Smiths that crowd together, get a bunch of debris on them, and make a giant Agent Smith. Like, so much so, he reaches over to a billboard that has his same glasses and puts them on. And you fight. That's the ending scene.
God. If they remake the Matrix movies, they need to do that scene.
Oh, yes, they do.
Why didn't they do that in the third movie? They could have. They had the money to do it.
They did. They had the capabilities of doing it.
Yeah. And why the Jesus thing? Why did they put that in there?
I don't know. I don't know.
I do respect that though. You know that they're just like, yeah, we screwed up. So
Yeah, the
they
Jesus.
the Wachowskis seem like, cool, pretty cool people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well,
It's always, I think, even though the Wachowski, the now Wachowski sisters, because they did get a sex change here recently, I just referred.
one of them.
I thought both of them did.
I thought it was just one of them.
Okay, then the Wachowski brother and sister right now. I referred to them. I referred to them being brothers because they were brothers at the time. So anything I refer to them here on out, I will refer to their proper pronouns and proper identification. Because yeah.
I guess they both did.
Oh, okay. The Wachowski sisters. I do apologize. If I ever refer to the Matrix again or anything again, I'll refer to them as brothers for their past work, pre-transition, but anything post their transition, I'll refer to them to their respective pronouns and their respective identification as the Wachowski sisters. As such, when you see the Wachowski sisters doing something, it's always kind of, it's like you have your eye on it, Because everyone got hooked with the Matrix, and then the general consensus is that people got de-hooked with the sequels, but everyone still watched it because they were trying to wrap their heads around what they were doing.
Right.
I think it's always a treat when they do something.
Yeah. Jupiter Ascending. Oh.
not everything.
We're gonna do
I've
we gotta
never
do
s-
some commentaries over
I
some
need
of their movies.
That'll be my first viewing, but I've seen parts of that. I'm like,
yeah. We're gonna.
this feels like a movie from them, but
Well, I've heard it. Some said it's a so bad it's good movie.
so bad.
Like it's so insane. So we'll probably on the
kind of like the Speed Racer movie they did.
yeah. I haven't seen that actually.
I've heard that it's so outrageous and over the top that people actually like
Yeah,
it.
we're gonna maybe
A Wachowski Sisters month. you
yeah
know?
maybe January we'll do that on the YouTube channel. We'll do like a round table commentary and review series. So
That'll work. We can take that break to rest and
Yeah.
do some planning and make sure that we got
yeah,
everything.
we'll talk about our future plans later
Yeah.
down the line next in a couple months. So when we wrap up the year. So yeah, when to close the book. Anything else?
I think that's about it.
Yeah.
I think that's about it.
Yeah.
Depending on your story, what genre you're telling, what you want to do, the type of characters you've set up, because some characters you can carry on for a few chapters after their goal's been accomplished, because because you built characters that people want to stick around with, and you want to see what happens to them. It's why even if you tie up all the loose ends, maybe you could do a sequel because your characters are that well written that people want to see what happens to them after this. Where do they go from this?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're Harrison Ford, kill him off.
Yeah. They did it. They finally did it. They took him and
Thrown off a ledge. Why doesn't anybody? Why are there no railings in space? Everybody gets thrown off railings. Why everybody gets thrown off platforms? Why are there no fucking railings?
without Batman, crime doesn't have a punchline anymore.
Okay.
All right.
Let's move on to our
This-
filmmaking.
This is a great topic for anyone, not just film directors,
Yeah.
content creators, people who
Yeah.
do the arts or entertainment for a living, or working on big projects. How do you keep yourself motivated?
Yeah.
How do you keep yourself motivated? That depends on you,
I don't think we've quite mastered it.
No.
But
Like,
we've talked about this before. Deadlines.
Mhm.
That's a big way.
Yeah, deadlines are a big motivator.
They don't always work on everybody, but they're the best. They're probably your best odds, the best starting point. That'll get you 50, 75% of the way there. For some people, 100% way there.
Mhm.
It varies on for circumstances per project, but you get the point.
It depends. Like, you have to, the best way to keep yourself motivated is to always be, because I'm trying to speak from experience and how I keep motivated on something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll keep motivated. For a good example, here's an example of how I can keep motivated on something. I listen to a really good song that pumps me up, because when I was putting together the 2 videos from Too Many Games, the 2-day coverage videos that I put together a while ago,
Right.
I kept myself busy because the first video I kept myself motivated because I was listening to said song that was pumping me up, but I was riding on the wave of excitement. Like, that was a fun weekend. I can't wait to put this together. The second one, that took a while because I was also busy at the time
Right.
with something else, but I kept myself busy with that song that pumped me up. You gotta be really invested. I think your investment into an idea can help you with how you're being motivated, how motivated you are going to be about something.
Right.
Granted, all your investment isn't going to prevent the strain of the inevitable, am I still working on this? Well, it can help.
Well, I think that's kind of inevitable.
Yeah, it is an inevitable feeling. Motivation and investment can help you curve and stave off that feeling.
Yeah.
But it's completely natural to find yourself sitting at your computer one day and you're like, I'm still working on this, and it's how long have I been working on this, and I'm still here.
Yeah.
That's an inevitable feeling that you're bound to get.
Definitely. I know that's happened to me a lot. So
I've had several instances of that.
I think the only instance where it happened the least was the Stigma Anxiety documentary I did last year. So.
Because you had a lot of investment in that.
Oh yeah,
you were really passionate about that.
Yeah, I did. Still great. My project. I think it's almost at like maybe 15,000 views, maybe more.
Link in the description.
Yeah, thanks for your help.
No problem, man. Happy to help as always.
Yeah. But yeah, that was I think like looking back, there were times I was kind of like, oh, I'm still working on this. I was like, oh, there's still so much to do. But there was very few, very far between.
Now, I actually learned about a good motivational tool in college.
Oh, yeah?
It's called the 20-minute method, where you get yourself an egg timer, or you set your phone for 20 minutes, and you get a nice alarm when it goes off. What you do is you hit start, and you focus solely on what you're working on, nothing else. Next to minimal to no distractions. You work on that for 20 minutes straight. Once that timer goes off, you stop. You don't touch it again. You go do something else for 20 minutes. Play a video game, read a book, watch a movie, listen to music. Something to get your mind off the work you were doing here for 20 minutes. Timer goes off. Oh, I hit the mic there. Timer goes off. Go back to this. Another 20 minutes. It's a way of giving it gets yourself into a pattern and a rhythm, and it also lets your mind relax. It focuses on something else because it helps you stave off that feeling of burnout. Now like we said, you'll be working on something for so long, you start to notice it. But the 20-minute method is a really good idea because it'll help you be productive without burning your mind, without burning your brain out in the process.
Yeah, I have to try that.
Yeah, and it's best to use this method. This method is best suited when you are working on a side project that doesn't have a deadline, or you do have a deadline, but you have a little wiggle room to take those breaks. Now, if you got something due on Friday, you're gonna be sitting your butt down and doing something.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be times like you're just going to have to push through.
Oh, yeah. Oh, excuse me. It's still too early. So.
It's only 11:52.
I know, but...
Yeah.
But yeah, that sounds like a good thing. I'm going to have to try that. So
Give it a shot, my man.
Yeah, I will. I guess, like we said, deadlines are a great way to, whether it's a contractual deadline or a verbal deadline or a self deadline. So either one's a great way to do it. It's not guaranteed. I've missed deadlines. I'm sure you have too. I think it's just kind of natural. But I guess this also kind of ties into procrastination, which we might go a little bit more into on another episode. But,
yeah.
Procrastination, it's we all do it. We're all
no one's not guilty of it.
Nope. But in a way, are you familiar with 42, the YouTube channel? So actually, it's Thoughty2. He's a British guy. He does like this really smart, really well thought out videos. Just about knowledge and everything. But anyway, he did a video about procrastination, and he talked about it was either Beethoven or
Mozart,
maybe. Talked about how they did how he had this like big performance he had to do, but he hadn't written anything. The orchestra, the day of the event, the orchestra hadn't practiced anything. They had nothing to work with, and so he wrote it in like an afternoon. They brought it to them, had it copied and everything, gave it to the orchestra, and they did it, and boom, big performance, and now it's one of the highest known best known performances and songs to this day. Sorry about that.
It's all good.
Yeah. So you'll do a podcast correction on what that song was. I'll link you. I'll send you
Roger.
that. Actually, I'll go find it right now.
All right.
So yeah, just kind of bounce off that.
Bounce off that. Wow, procrastination. Like, I'm reminded of a quote from Bill Gates, I believe. This is a quote from Bill Gates. He'll hire the lazy people because they'll find the shortcuts to make something quick. Like, the idea that somebody procrastination and they'll find the quickest way to do something means that they're like, it's the idea that they're resourceful enough to. It kind of reminds me of South Park, you know?
Right.
They'll procrastinate a week before the episode is due, put it together in a week, and it still retains the same quality as the rest of the show. Like, and they've only ever missed a deadline because of a blackout. Fun fact about that. Like, there is a very big romanticized idea about procrastination and how you'll be able to procrastinate and then throw something together and it'll come out like those stories where you'll bring out a piece of gold at the very last second. And like, some people can work really well under pressure.
Oh yeah.
That's a discussion of working under pressure right there.
Yeah. Like we said, this is not guaranteed, and
we're not experts on this.
Not at all.
Granted, I don't think we're experts on anything.
Nah, not particularly.
Yet.
Yet. But yeah, that is an interesting thought. Here, I'll send you that link on Skype.
Thank you. I'll make that correction later.
Yeah.
So do we got anything else to say on this?
Let me think. Let me get back to the page. Keeping motivated. I mean, you have to be passionate about what it is you're working on, of course. If you're not, I mean, this kind of goes with anything. It's just there's no point into it. So,
and passion should never stop.
Good one.
And it should prevail.
Yeah.
That wasn't a jab at you. I just find that really inspirational.
Oh, thank you. I guess.
Hey, and also on that fact, just because a project doesn't go through, it doesn't mean your passion isn't there.
Right.
Things happen.
Yeah.
People grow tired of projects.
Yeah.
There are some people who just want to put it on the shelf, let it marinate, and then come back to it later.
Or not.
Yeah, there's let's go back. We'll tie this back to our other discussion. Learn to close the book on things. If it's not going to work, just close the book.
Yeah. Or put it on the shelf.
Yeah.
So.
There's other things to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's yeah.
Think that's it?
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, I'm like, I'm not. It's still early for us. We're still tired, so.
And I've got to head out for work here. So let's hit that outro. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this week's episode of the Filmmakers Roundtable. This podcast comes out on YouTube in video form every Monday, on SoundCloud in audio form every Monday. And if you would like us to check out something, a classic that has gotten a lot of attention, a classic that hasn't gotten a lot of attention, a cult classic, an underrated film, an overrated film, let us know. We'll check it out. Also, for any special links that we specified or anything in particular that we specified throughout this episode, it'll be in the description below. Give that a click and watch at your leisure. Always join us again next week. And also, always keep on filmmaking.
Cool.
Bye.
Alright. How long was that?
Thanks for watching this week's episode, guys. Make sure to follow us on SoundCloud and iTunes, as well as our Facebook and Twitter pages. Don't forget to subscribe to the Roundtable, as well as our personal YouTube channels, all the links of which will be provided in the description. Thanks, guys, and we will see you on the next episode of the Filmmakers Roundtable.